Well, like many folks, I watched the final episode of Stranger Things last night before midnight my time and wanted to give some unfiltered thoughts. So let's see, there were good things about it and there were bad things about it. I'll start with the good things. It really jumped right out of the gate and went straight into some interesting action. It did move from very mysterious to just full Marvel movie though. Like we have worlds colliding. Literally, we have another planet colliding through the upside down, I presume eventually to touch Earth so that Vecna can merge two planets. And it's fine. It's weird. It's not what I was exactly expecting where this would go. I thought it'd be more like this whole like upside down thing would be more of a psychological thing. But no, it is very physical, but also with the mental component. And the mental component is basically Vecna's merged with the Mind Flayer. And oh yeah, the Mind Flayer is back. It is the big bad, the official big bad. And I noted in the title of the video, but there's spoilers. So just as a reminder, I'm going to spoil this thing like crazy. So stop now, watch the video before I spoil everything else because I'm going to go into some details. Anyway, yeah, so the Mind Flayer has basically been hanging out on this other planet. And it wants, I presume, that planet to merge with Earth so it can, like, take over. But the Mind Flayer, and this is kind of a bad thing, it's just a big dumb monster. Like, I don't know what it actually wants. I don't know its motivation. All I know is it's merged with Vecna, and they want to, like, recreate Earth. I guess they hint to the Mind Flayer was telling Henry, who is Vecna when he was a kid, you know, Earth's bad because bad stuff happens, and I'm much better, even though I'm this really nasty monster. This wants to kill everybody. And I'm going to fix things on Earth. Maybe just reset the whole planet. I don't know. I'm speculating. But bottom line is almost all of our heroes end up on this planet to go fight the Mind Flayer with Vecna inside, kind of connected to the thing's heart, inside of its body. And then we just have a full out like Rambo scene. Like Nancy gets out her guns and just starts shooting the thing like crazy. Everybody else is throwing like Molotov cocktails at it, and they're just beating up the Mind Flayer. Well, 11 eventually gets inside of the Mind Flayer through some fancy gymnastics, and she starts beating up Vecna real good, and eventually she just skewers him into the spiky thing that's in the Mind Flayer. And all this was fun. This was fine action. It was very Marvel movie-esque, but, you know, it kept up the tempo. It was very interesting. And then what was it? They save all the kids. So there's 12 kids that Vecna needed apparently to also be connected to merge the worlds. So they get the kids saved. By the way, they're on the Mind Flayer and they're getting, you know, disconnected from its guts internally, and everybody's kind of happy inside this now dead Mind Flayer. And Vecna's stuck again on this skewer. And that's when Winona Ryder comes in, or Joyce Byers, and she sees Vecna. He's not dead. He's actually like coughing. He's on the threshold of death because they wanted to give Joyce a chance to finish him off. So she comes over with an axe, and then the show shows you everything that Vecna did bad. You know, all the bad stuff that happened to all the people of Hawkins through these flashbacks. And in between the flashbacks, she's literally chopping off Vecna's head. And eventually it pops off, and I think, you know, he's officially dead. He doesn't come back. And everybody's happy. Somehow they get from the other planet back in the Upside Down, and they are going to blow up this big ball of energy inside the Upside Down that's going to incinerate what is a wormhole. The Upside Down is a wormhole that allows you to connect the two planets. And they're all driving home. Now, this whole time you're kind of expecting 11 to, it was hinting that she was going to sacrifice herself, but now she's not. There's more story to that I won't get into. But everyone's alive, which at this point I was surprised. I thought some of the heroes would die. But then they get out of the Upside Down and they drive into Hawkins, and the military's there. And they're the main bad military lady. She wants to get 11, continue to run experiments on her, whatever. And 11 decides to not leave the Upside Down. So she's in there. She has a moment with Mike saying, "Goodbye, I gotta die." It's not really clear to me. This is one of the bad things. I'm like, okay, you just went through a lot of stuff, and now you're, just because you don't want to mess with the military, you're going to let yourself die. Anyway, she's dead. She gets blown away when the Upside Down blows away. At this point, the show is only halfway through, which I was like, how, like, something else has to happen. I must have missed something. But no, this was an hour-long denouement where they did a whole Lord of the Rings style 52 endings where they went through every single one of the characters and kind of gave them closure. Now, I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it because it just, too much of the show was the ending. And maybe some of it felt a little just, I don't know, it lost some of the impact with just like how much time we spent closing some things down. And some of it was a little more silly, like Dustin goes on this big rant when he's giving a speech as they're all graduating about kind of breaking down the system or whatever. And I'm like, I guess this makes sense for his character because Eddie died and Dustin was, and Eddie was kind of representing, I guess, anti-establishment, and Dustin was his buddy. So he was, doing that in honor of Eddie, at least that's what I presume. And there was just a lot of other, more light banter across some of the characters. We're just sitting there having drinks, talking about what each of them is doing. My favorite one, though, is at the end when the main cast, like Mike and Dustin and Will and Lucas, they're all playing D&D. I think they have Max there as well. And it kind of just goes back to the beginning when they were just a innocent group of kids all having fun. And then at the end, Mike wraps up this D&D story, and he talks about, basically alludes to the fact that he thinks 11 maybe didn't blow up, that she, through some psychic stuff, she actually tricked the military, and she's off somewhere on Earth, hidden away with the 3 waterfalls, which was something Mike had always promised they would go do, after everything was wrapped up. And they show imagery of 11, maybe somewhere like in Iceland or whatever, with I think they showed 2 waterfalls rather than 3, so that didn't fit the theme. But anyway, they kind of leave it hanging whether she lived or died, and I didn't hate that. I liked that kind of in light of Stranger Things, they left a little bit of a mystery there. And then it was nice. Hopper gets to propose to Joyce, and of course she accepts. And I think that, then Hopper gives Mike a big long story about, don't blame yourself that 11 died, because Hopper blamed himself that his daughter died, and that was kind of, as a dad, I guess that whole thing was kind of touching. Then it was wrapped up. So anyway, this whole series definitely was interesting. I'm glad I ultimately watched all of it. I definitely felt like season 4 was still by far the best. I'll give season 5 credit. I don't know if I've ever seen a show this complex, like bullet point by bullet point, close every single storyline and answer every single question. So kudos for that. It definitely felt very, very rushed. But overall, I'm satisfied in terms of understanding, what the whole plan was. Though I'm pretty sure that this whole like wormhole thing and all that stuff, I don't think they decided on that. Even Vecna, I think ultimately they just kind of had this vague mind flayer enemy, and they introduced Vecna to create more of a human villain that you could have actually like talk to the characters and be more like grounded in reality. And then they combine that with the mind flare. But overall, how they pulled everything together logically makes sense. The execution was just really rushed. Spent a little too much time with some of the closures here. But yeah, it was entertaining for sure. Not the worst way to close out 2025. So let me know what you thought. Did you like the episode? Hate the episode? I definitely know that this season when I look at different reviews online, has a lot of strong opinions about it. So just watching some of that's also been interesting. But so it's over now. Hopefully they make another interesting show that I can get involved with, because it's rare that I can find anything that I find kind of interesting that other people are watching now too in large numbers. But here's the good 2026. Hope you have a wonderful year. Take care. Bye.